Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So today is November 6th and Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So I thought it would be so funny to create some kind of a cartoon stylized turkey. Why not, right? So how do we do that in zBrush? So here I am in zBrush. Let's go ahead and jump in and think about where do we want to start from. So I think the best thing to do for like a super stylized cartoon character is just starting it from the head, right? And once we create the head, then we can decide on the proportions of the body, wings, feet, and all of that. All right, so let's do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to Lightbox, and let's just grab this Dynamesh Sphere 128, and we'll start with that, right? So to begin, I'm going to move. I'm going to grab my move. I'm going to press X to activate my symmetry. And I guess I could jump out of perspective view, hold on the shift key to snap my viewport, make sure it's nice and straight, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating some kind of a shape of the head. So maybe the top of the head could be just a little bit pointier than the bottom. Right here we need a little more space or surface, right, for the beak. So visualize a beak right here. And we'll just bring this up and we can continue adjusting this if we want. But so if we do put the beak in front, you do want to make sure that this is somewhat flat, right? So we'll do something like this. I don't have any experience meeting a turkey, so I'm going to go for like a super stylized version of it. So anyone who actually has one will probably, find a lot of things that are not consistent with an actual turkey. But let's just have fun, all right? So the other thing that I would love to do is, once I have something like this, I would love to push in the areas for the eyes, and I usually like to do this kind of stuff with inflate brush. So I'm going to make my brush somewhat large. I could go back into perspective view. Let's turn our active symmetry on, and we can go to sub mode or hold on the Alt key, doesn't really matter. But essentially, let me just start kind of pressing in the part of the head that I want the eye to be, and we can decide the size of the eye as well, right? If it's super cartoony and you want something really cute, most likely you want large eyes. And if you do make large eyes, once you create the cavity for the eye sockets, you can always manipulate this and change this around, right? Maybe we really want to emphasize this, and we can decide if we want the eyes to be perfectly round or not. But even something like this, I think is perfect, right? I think that's pretty cool. All right, so what would be the next step? The next step, obviously he doesn't have ears. He is going to have some stuff on top, but let's just do the most important part next, which is going to be the beak, right? How do we do that? So I propose we just simply insert another sphere and use this as our beak. I'm going to go in the side view, jump out of the perspective view, grab my move, and I'm just going to start kind of positioning where I think the beak should be, somewhere around here. And of course we can decide on the size of it, but essentially what you probably want to do, and we'll combine two different shapes, right? We'll have the top of the beak to be one shape, the bottom another shape, and then maybe we'll combine them and merge them and blend them right into one. But to get started, something like this is all you really need. And I do want, I think, somewhat large beak because this is like super cartoony character. So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to turn this into Dynamesh by just pressing this button, and we can do Control and drag to to re-Dynamesh whenever we want. Whenever I re-Dynamesh, I do not like using anything except let's see, mask rectangular. I like to, for some reason, after using zBrush for so many years, when I press Control and drag to re-Dynamesh, I love to see this little box. So just me personally, kind of funny. But we can polish this, make this a little smoother if we want to, doesn't really matter at this point. But also keep in mind, if you want this UI, you can grab it in the community tab as a zip file, even with all these external brushes. And the cool thing about these external brushes that I have in my UI, if you hover over any one of these, it will tell you where I got them from and what their name is, right? All right, anyways, let's keep going. So I'm gonna go to the side view. Let's do Control and Shift. Let's grab, we can grab the knife, and let's just cut half of this circle. Holding down the space bar, I can move this around, but let's just do something along these lines. And that's going to be a good solid starting point for our beak, right? The next thing I would like to do is maybe I want to press this part up or in. So to do that, let me hold on the control key. And honestly, I actually need a pen for this. Let me, holding down the control key, let's just do a selection. We'll do something like that. I think that's great. Do control click and reverse this. And now what we can do is using the move brush, make it kind of large. We can just start pushing this up, but let's make sure our symmetry is on, right? And I'm just going to start pushing this up like this. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow me to create the base shape of what I think the top of the beak is, right? All right, so let's see that's good. Make sure you don't push it through too high. But now I'm going to do control and drag to get rid of the mask, control and drag one more time to re-dynamesh everything. And then I would love to polish this as well. Very nice. Okay, cool. So let's see what's next. The next thing I would like to do before I start kind of sculpting this is I want to do the same thing for the bottom, right? So instead of making one, why don't we just use this one as a base shape for the bottom piece as well? So I'm just going to duplicate it, grab my move, and go to this front view. Again, I'm just holding Shift key to snap, and my perspective view is off, right? So that's important, right? That's how you can sculpt things or build things or model and keep your views perfectly straight. So that's really important. I'm going to press X, hold down the Shift key, and just snap this around 180 degrees. All right, and that's going to give me sort of like the starting shape for the bottom of the beak, which is great. If I wanted the bottom to be somewhat smaller, I can always scale this in, right? Go to the side view, and let's just kind of snap this in. And right away, you know, we're building a turkey, but you could see where this is headed. You know, think about like Angry Birds, right? This is great workflow for pretty much any cartoon bird. So keep that in mind if you want to, derail and do something else at some point. All right, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to press Alt and select the top beak. And let's go to the top view. And let's say we want to start changing the shape of this, right? So to make this longer and maybe sharper, right? I'm going to grab my move. I'm going to turn on AccuCurve, find the center of this, and just start kind of pulling it forward a little bit. And that's going to give me an interesting effect where the beak is starting to get, somewhat pointy in the front. And I think that's pretty cool. That's what I want. I also want to go to the side view, and let's make sure we adjust this a little bit better. We can, if it starts to get, strange and stretchy, always do control and drag to re-dynamesh, and hold on the Shift key to polish it. And you can see how we can continue keeping it somewhat, smooth, right? If I wanted to, let's say I'm not happy with this point here, I can of course keep adjusting it. And the one thing I want to make sure that everyone who is new to sculpting understands is that all of this needs to be adjusted at all times as you move around. So, you always want to, just like a real sculpting, right? You always want to adjust it as you're doing other things. So it's not like you're just executing it like like a manual instruction step by step. There's steps that are going to be specific to your sculpt that are not part of this, right? Because you need to keep a close understanding of your visual, your shapes, and do little adjustments and little things, right? So it's really important to understand that. So right now I kind of positioned this where the point is somewhat flat to the bottom, and I like this, right? It's going to create this kind of a nice slope here. And the next thing I need to do is I would love to, let's say I want to, angle this more. Well, I can angle it using the bend curve, right? That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is I can just simply use draw and move, make my brush large, and just simply, literally with the active symmetry turned on, jump out of the AccuCurve and just literally just do this, right? That's going to give me a somewhat very similar effect. And maybe my brush is just a little bit too large. But you can see what I'm doing. I'm creating almost like a curve, right, from the side. And I like that, right? So that's what I want. I can also grab my move and of course still move this around. I can even tilt this if I want, right? And there's no right answer. It's just stylistically, what kind of face do you want? But something like that I think is pretty cool. for my turkey, and then I would like to get my move, and I would love this top to be, you know, just maintain this curve here. And it's just very, honestly, it's a lot of fun, and you just kind of do like tiny moves, right? You don't want to, you don't want to do big giant moves and break your shape. Everything is very small, and you're just just continue evaluate every move and see if you're happy with it, right? If you're not happy, just do Control Z, go back really quick, right? So that's essentially the process, right? So I think this is totally working, and we can make this super smooth and clean by Z-remeshing it, right? So right now, keep in mind, these are just kind of a clay base shapes, but if we want our topology to be super clean and nice with creases, we're gonna Z-remesh this, right? So don't get stuck on like little bumps and little things, right? All of that is gonna be automatically cleaned up by ZBrush once we create the base shape. All right, very cool. So let's hold on the Alt key, maybe go to the bottom one, and let's just decide what do we want the bottom beak to be, right? Do we want this maybe to be a little open? Maybe you want to put a little tongue in there, or do you want to keep it closed and just do some funny expression? So it's up to you. But one thing I know for sure is that I would love the bottom here, I'm gonna press X, to be a little maybe wider. I don't really want the bottom to be as pointy at the top, so I'm not gonna turn my AccuCurve on, but I do want to have, you know, a little bit of a shape like this, right? So it does maybe cover some of this here, and this has to make somewhat sense, right? So maybe all of this is covered like this, and this is how it's kind of looking from the bottom, right? If he closes his beak, it doesn't really have that many gaps, but at the same time, you know, it's super round and cartoony still, and honestly I wouldn't mind pressing all of this in. So I'm slowly starting to shape it, and you can be brave, right? If you want to, you can grab something like the trim dynamic and just really push these shapes in a lot like this, and just, you know, sculpt something that maybe has even flat surfaces like this, right? To get rid of all these lines and everything, you can just do Control and drag to redynamesh, hold on the Shift key, and just very quickly smooth this out. And now we have something really custom and interesting, right? So a million different ways to sculpt, right? Let's go to move and maybe just pull this back up. So if we keep the beak closed, that's one option. If you wanted to open that, we can again go to move. Let's unlock our pivot, put the pivot somewhere here, lock it back up, and we can just literally just open this up, right? We can do that. And if you do open it, maybe it's kind of cool because then we can maybe put a little tongue in there, right? And if you wanted to do that, that could be a simple insert another sphere and make that into a tongue. I'm gonna put it right here, make it a little smaller. And to shape this into a tongue, it's really easy, right? All you need to do is just make it a little bit longer and of course flatter, right? And then you want to do something like this and just decide what kind of tongue you want, but I'm gonna put it in, rotate it, put it in position. And now all I need to do is just kind of inflate both sides. So check this out, I can solo this, go to inflate, turn my symmetry on, and now I'm on both sides of this tongue. And now to inflate both sides, all I have to do is just let me make sure I'm in add mode. I can do something like this. I can just run it across and start inflating both sides. Just inflate both of these, and as I'm inflating it, it's going to start looking more and more like a tongue because we're doing it to both sides, right? Really cool. Let's turn this into Dynamesh as well. Control drag, let's polish it. And again, we did something like this. We can always add more shape to it by, you know, maybe pressing this in if we want to. Maybe we want to create more of a bend here for the tongue. It's totally up to you. No rules, right? Just kind of having fun and figuring out what you like. Maybe we could do something like this. All right, I think that's fine. Let's go ahead and jump out of the solo mode and take a look. If you're happy with the shape, that's great. You can always deflate it or inflate it at any point. Maybe I want mine to be just a little more inflated. And of course, I can always continue adjusting it, right? Let me go back into the solo mode, change my pivot, And, you know, I can make sure that it kind of makes sense, right? Let's lock this back up. And I can move this around. Now, keep in mind, as you're moving it, if you ever see stuff like this in ZBrush, always remember that's because you're moving it on an angle with active symmetry turned on, right? So that's kind of a crazy effect that you would get if you're transforming something with the active symmetry turned on. So again, if you start getting weird stuff like this, just make sure you turn off your symmetry, and then that's not going to be a problem. Right now you can move it around, maybe put it into a better position. I feel like the tongue is way too large. Let me scale this down maybe. I actually wouldn't mind if this was just a little bit lower. All right, very nice. Let's keep going. I'm going to next insert some eyes. So let's go ahead and insert a sphere. I'm just going to scale it and put it into position and move it forward and just make sure that it kind of makes sense. Now we can keep the eye round, or maybe let's turn it into Dynamesh as well. And just for fun, I can change the shape of this just a little bit, make it a little more playful and whimsical. All right, just want to make sure it fits into the socket. I'm not really going to be animating it or anything like that. I'm just going to create something that I can render in Blender, right? So it's just a fun character. Let's say I'm happy with this. If I want this on the other side, I can always flip it, right? Because you want to mirror and weld left to right. So flip it in the left and then just do mirror and weld. And now you have two of them on the same layer. And that's pretty perfect, right? So now we have something like this. To make it look more like a turkey, let's go ahead and grab the top here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my move, and I'm just going to pull this up like this. And what I'm doing is I'm going to create a little space for a couple nostrils here, right? So it's going to be, instead of, you know, this looks more like a parrot. If you do something like this and you're making a turkey, I think that's going to be a little bit closer, right? So we can pinch this up here like this. And we can do something along these lines. We can smooth this out. And now we have this space that maybe goes inside the head a little bit better. And we can adjust the head too, right? We can do Alt click on the head and just move this around towards the beak, maybe a little more. And if you wanted to, you know, even change the thickness right here. So it kind of has this nice merge. And then it kind of, you know, does something like this, like it tapers to the top, right? So then you have this nice angle, which is really cool. We can, of course, decide on the expression of the turkey. You know, maybe it's more like this, like he's kind of, you know, I think something like this makes him a little more kind, if that's what you want. Then I can go to my eyes and just keep adjusting everything together, right? Just jump from the beak. You know, I can jump from the beak to the eyes to the head and just keep adjusting it where everything, all the shapes kind of work together, right? So that's really important. If we wanted to add even some kind of a brow effect here, we can again use inflate for that, and just literally inflate all this area here. And by inflating the brows, you can see that it's going to start creating kind of a split here, which is really cool. You can even hold on the Alt key and just push this in just a little. All of these little things will start giving you something a little more custom, right? Let's do Control and drag to Dynamesh. We'll do polish, and if you go on the side view, you can just keep adjusting all of this, and just have fun and make sure that you like your bird. And as I said before, let's add him. Let's give him a couple nostrils. I'm gonna go to Inflate, and because I'm an add, I have to hold down the Alt key, and I can just do something like this. And maybe that's just a little bit too large, right? So let's push this in, and that's gonna give him a couple cute nostrils on his nose. I'm gonna Control and drag to Dynamesh, polish it. If you wanted to, another thing you could do is you can pinch the tip of his nose, right? We could do something like this, and very quickly add even more shape to it, so it doesn't look so blobby. So we can pinch all of this here and just create a little bit more of a shape, if that's something we like. I kind of like that. I think that's pretty cool. If you do something like that, just make sure you maintain your beak kind of even, right? Again, we can zero mesh this, but Just make sure that your base mesh is somewhat nice, right? Very cool. All right, let's see, what else can we do? If we wanted to give him some pupils, let's do this. Let's just do Alt-click on the eyes. Let me jump into my brushes. I'm gonna press I, and that's gonna go into the IMM brush, the IMM insert brush. Let's just find like a primitive, right? So I'm gonna grab this primitive, and the primitive comes with a bunch of cylinders. And to create the effect of an eye, like a cartoon eye, I think the cylinder is gonna be perfect. So let me just literally grab the cylinder and just insert something like this. And I can decide, you know, the angle I want this. Maybe I want this to be a little bit angled like this, so he's kind of silly. Grab the move brush, and not a move brush, I'm sorry, grab the move. And that's gonna allow me to control the depth of this, right? And because I'm using the IMM brush, it kind of matched the angle of the sphere, which is cool, right? It's gonna give me precise angle. And, you know, I could still move this around if I wanted to. Maybe just move it out or whatever. But something like this, I think is what I was going for. And I kind of like it. I think it's cool, right? It's better than using spheres, because I think the cartoon eyes look, again, just artistic preference. Depends what you're making, but kind of like this. I like this to be closer together, like he's almost a little bit cross-sided. And I do like the fact that he is, these are flat in front. All right, so let's say I'm happy with this. If I wanted to add some cuts to that to make it a little more, you know, like a illusion of a reflection, let me go to the front, jump out of the perspective view, and I just need to find a good angle. Do Control Shift, and then tap Alt twice, and then pressing spacebar, you can move this around. Just find like a good spot for this and just do something like that. I think that's pretty cool, and it's gonna give us, you know, somewhat stylized eyes very quickly. Now let's add some floppy things on top on his head, just like turkey's head. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert a, let's do another sphere, that's fine. Jump out of a perspective view, grab our move, and just do something like this. I'm gonna scale this down and maybe make it a little bit longer, and just literally create like a mohawk, right? And we don't need too many of them, but maybe we can just do like a larger one right here. And we want to make sure it's in the center, right? So before we duplicate these, let's just maybe make this somewhat thinner from the front. And then it looks like this from the side. If you want to tweak this, you can tweak this and customize it and maybe break the shape a little. It's up to you. You can even inflate the top, right? Turn the symmetry on and just do something like this on top. Hold down the Alt key. It's up to you. Essentially what I'm trying to do is just break this shape so it looks like it's a custom shape versus like a base shape, right? All right, nice. Once you are happy, let's re-Dynamesh it and let's polish it, make sure it's nice and smooth. Holding down the Shift key, we can even melt it even more. And I'm perfectly happy with all this right here. So I'm gonna grab my move, hold on the Control key, and just make another one. And do something like this. And I'll just scale this one down a little and move it forward. And I do like them touching. So I'm gonna do Control and do one more time, make this smaller, angle this, and just create almost like a little mohawk effect. I'm gonna do Control and go to this one. And let's do the same thing. Maybe this one just a little bit larger. But I'm not really sure how many of these I need. I'll do maybe 5, right? I don't need too many. And do something like this. Let's do Control and drag to get rid of the mask and take a look. And he is really starting to look like a, you know, some kind of a chicken or a turkey. Now all of these shapes don't need to be merged together, because I do like these really nice definitive lines. So let's jump out of Dynamesh. And if you turn your PolyFrame on, you can do auto groups and see that they're actually different separate shapes, right? So we don't want to merge them together. So I am gonna jump out of Dynamesh, just in case, if we wanna zero mesh these or anything like that. And let's just shape them even more, right? Let's create something like this where it's even more kind of a organic, dynamic looking shape, right? Very cool. If you want to change the angle of this here, maybe it looks kind of strange if it's perfectly straight like that. It doesn't look very natural. I'm gonna jump out of the perspective view. Let's just maybe add a little bit of a bend. So to do this, we can make our brush ginormous and just do something like this. Just move this, and I don't like that. Oh, that's because my active symmetry is on. Let me turn that off. We could just do something like this, and I think that could totally work if that's something you like. I don't like that. I'm gonna go to move, go to gear, go to bend, and let me see what's going on here. So I need to change the way these are running. Now the axes are not working because I need the axes running this way, and you can see that it's currently not working for me, right? Trying to use the bend curve. So why is that? What is it doing? Well, it's following the pivot, right? So actually I'm not ready to make a bend because I need to adjust the pivot. So let's delete that. All right, and if we delete it, we can see which way the pivot is facing. This is not good. So I'm going to unlock this, reset this, so that now it's perfectly straight. And it looks good from all the angles. Let's lock this back up and try this one more time. Go to settings, go to bend curve, and now we have this perfect, beautiful line. And that's what I want, right? I don't want the one on the bottom to move, so I want to make sure that my symmetry is off. It says symmetrical equals 0, so this is great. And I really just want to take this top one and just kind of move it over like this, and maybe maintain this here, right? So I do like it coming from the middle, but then doing like this curve to the left, or I guess his right, my left, right? And this is going to give me what I was looking for. It's a little more interesting. I'm gonna click on the gear and say accept, and let's take a look and see if we like this. I think I do. I think this is pretty cool. Let's go into perspective view, and that is exactly what I want. Make sure you save your tool before you get too far. Again, you can always do little touch-ups, additional touch-ups, like maybe I wanna, move this just a little more and just make sure that my top is nice and inflated, and that is perfectly fine. I just want to encourage you continuously making little touch-ups everywhere. I think that's super important, and that's going to always give you a custom, unique sculpt, right? Very cool. I like this. Now, because this has this nice sharp line that we did with pinching, let's carry that over by pressing Alt, selecting the head, grab our pinch. I do have active symmetry turned on, so it's going to be on both sides. And I could do the same thing, just very slightly. I can pinch this right here. And I don't want to do too much, right? But I'm just creating kind of a similar effect on the body as well, to carry over between the beak and the head. And you can see how it's very subtle, but it works, right? Because it's kind of a similar style, right? And whenever you're using pinch, you can also use lazy mouse, and that's going to allow you to do it with a little more control, right? So I could go all the way down here and do something like this if I wanted to. So it's very easy to create clean, nice shapes. If you're starting to see like you don't have enough resolution, right? We can always increase this, and I can go to 256, for example. Let's do Control and drag to re-dynamesh this. And now if I just do a little bit of a polish, it's going to, give me a more of a high res look. So all of this detail is still preserved, which is great, right? And this is using Dynamesh, which I like to work in a lot. Again, I say this in every video. I think of Dynamesh as just clay, like a real-time sculpting, and I like this a lot because it really gives you infinite possibilities of which way you can take your shape before it loses, topology, right? Same thing here, right? This looks a little too low. Press Alt, select the shape. You can see it's only 26,000 because our resolution for the Dynamesh is 128. I can change this to 256, just like I did with the head. Do Control and drag to re-Dynamesh. Just do a little bit of a polish, and now this is nice and clean. So just very subtle changes, but they're really important, right? Same thing with the eyes. If I wanted to, let's go ahead and get rid of the mask. And with the eyes, when I inserted the pupils, it inserted them inside the Dynamesh on the same layer. So one of the things we could do is we can go to split, and let's do split to similar parts and say okay. And that's going to take our eye or our pupils and put it on a different layer, so we have more control over that, right? So if I wanted to increase the Dynamesh resolution of this, now I don't need to worry about messing up my pupils. I have full control, right? All of that is really important to pay attention to. So now I can go to Dynamesh, re-Dynamesh, and polish it, and now you can see I have really smooth, clean shapes, right? So you know, as you're building your base shapes, you can just continue increasing or decreasing the Dynamesh resolution, and then when you're done and you want to turn it into a game model or the final model, that's when you can Z-remesh it, because then you're done changing the big forms or the shapes of your character. So all of that is important. Let's do the same thing with the tongue. I can see that it's somewhat low resolution. Again, I'm not just going to Control D, right? If I do Control D, that's going to also make it smooth. But now it's confusing because the Dynamesh mode is in 128 resolution. And if you go to your geometry, you see that you have double subdivision levels. Well, that's confusing, right? Especially for anyone who is new, to keep track of the subdivision levels and Dynamesh mode and Z-remesh. It's just a little bit too much. I suggest if you are new, don't subdivide this unless you are happy with your base topology. And if you are in clay mode and just playing around, just use Dynamesh resolution, right? So that's my advice personally. So I'm going to do 256 to Control and drag to re-Dynamesh, polish this, and it actually didn't work. Let me try it again, and polish this, and now I have, again, smoother shapes. If you want to do a quick preview at this point, we can do a BPR. We can see what that looks like. Essentially, we just have a head on the floor. What I like to do is go to render, and you can see these shadows right here. They can be controlled if you want them to be less strong, right? So you have the floor shadow strength, and then you have the global shadow strength. The global shadow strength is going to be the shadows inside your actual shapes. So sometimes, you know, this right here works, but maybe sometimes you want to make it a little lighter. So you can turn this 0.75 down. And now if I re-render this, watch the inside of the beak. See how it just got lighter, right? And then you can also go to render and go to filters. And I'm in love with this F3. I always pump this up about halfway, and it's going to give me this really nice contrast. Just even as I just preview my work while I sculpt, right? That's something I like to do. Very nice. So this is how far we got so far. Let's keep going. And again, I'm going to save my tool. Now, one thing that makes a turkey look like a turkey versus a chicken is if you look at any cartoon art, they always have this hanging thing from the top of the beak. And it's kind of a iconic, you know, shape for identifying a turkey. So let's add that. So I'm going to go to Subtool. I'm going to insert a sphere, and I'm going to use this. So I'm going to use that sphere, and think of this as the bottom of. Honestly, I should have looked it up. I'm not sure what it's called, the little thing that's hanging, but we can talk about that maybe in the comments. But let's do something like this, and you know, we can make it longer, maybe something like this, so it's away from the face, but it's past the you know, the top beak. And if I wanted to, I can even do something like this, right? And what I'm gonna do next is this. I'm gonna go to draw. Let me grab my let's grab our snake hook, and it's gonna say, do you want to turn on Sculptris Pro? I'm gonna say yes, that's fine. Make this just a little bit larger, and all I want to do is just take this shape, and from this view, from this angle, just kind of pull this like this. Just put it towards the front, and that is exactly what I want, right? Very easy and pretty much perfect. If I wanted to clean this up, you can see how it's distorted a little bit, right? Let me do this. Let me go to 256 resolution. Let's do a Dynamesh, right? You can see how that got fixed really quick. I'm gonna go to move, and now I can just simply adjust this top part and just make sure that it kind of has a nice flow to it. Now here's a good example of what I always say. So you see how this is somewhat wobbly and not really attractive. This is not an attractive shape because I kind of pulled this around and I broke it, right? It doesn't look very good. To fix this, the best way to fix this kind of stuff is to kind of restructure the entire shape and make it perfect. You want to use Z-Remesher, right? So I'm going to jump out of Dynamesh so I don't get confused. Go to Geometry, go to Z-Remesher, and in here, if I set this to 1, the reason I'm setting it to lower is because I want to change or clean up some of these wobbly surfaces, so I don't want a lot of resolution, right? I'm going to go to 1. I'll turn Adapt off because this shape is so simple. I don't need extra edges, and I don't need active symmetry on because this is just on one side. And I'm just going to do Z-Remesh. So you can see what that looks like. If you're happy with it, that's great. If you want it to be even more even and straight, just do half of whatever this is and just do Z-Remesh. And let's just do one more. Just continue to simplify it until I get something that's super simple like this, right? I can polish this while it's so low, and that's going to really clean this up and get rid of anything that's wobbly whatsoever, right? So very quickly I created something perfect. Now if I do Control D, I can begin to subdivide it a lot of times. I'll go to like level 5, and that's still very low, like 40,000 points. But now I just took something super wobbly and random and created something perfect and clean, right? Really powerful technique. All right, next, let's go ahead and give him a body. So I'm gonna go to Subtool, I'm gonna insert another sphere, and let's just decide, jump out of the perspective view, let's just decide on the size of the turkey, right? Is he gonna be kind of a large head with a small body, or is he gonna have big body and small head? So it's up to you which way you wanna take this. I'm just gonna make the body just a little bit larger, not like he's not gonna be a big turkey. He's gonna be something like this, where the body is just somewhat larger than the head. And I do want to make sure that he has enough room for a neck, right? And do something like this. And let's go ahead and, you know, shape this just a little more, right? So I'm going to go to my move, turn my symmetry on. I can, of course, turn this in Dynamesh again, like we've been doing. And let's start talking about this. So this is going to be his belly, right? And then this portion right here is going to be a little bit flat because this is going to be his chest. The neck is going to be right here. We'll add that in a second. Let's maintain the belly somewhat round, right? And then for the back, you know, right here is going to be his thighs, right? So just do a couple little bulges for the legs are going to come out right here. And we can, on the side, just maybe pull this out a little on each side. So these are going to be the legs coming out. I do want to maintain the belly nice and round. Okay. Again, these are going to be the thighs. These are going to be the shoulders. For the back, we probably want the back to be, you know, also somewhat flat, right? Because it's going to go towards the neck here. And then this is going to be the back or the tush, right? And this is where all the big feather is going to come out from, right? So just kind of talking about this creates kind of this strange custom shape, but you could see where all the pieces kind of been, you know, mapped out, right? Very nice. So now to pull the neck, I'm just gonna literally make my brush a little bit small and just pull this up into his head and do something like that. I would like the neck to be a little bit skinnier, so I'm just gonna adjust it just using my move. And we can create a little bit of a curve here if we want. I think that's going to be nice. And I'm going to keep the neck somewhat skinny. Again, proportion-wise, I'm going for like a stylized cartoon feel. And I feel like this is perfect, right? Let's do Control and drag, do Shift, and really smooth this out. And now we have this really clean, interesting shape that should work perfectly for us. Let's plop down some feet. So I'm gonna insert another sphere, just keep using spheres, jump into the side view, grab my move, and I'm gonna bring this down, and that's gonna be his feet, right? Now the feet, I don't want the feet to be too long, but I do want them somewhat large. So this is gonna be maybe the back, you know, the heel of his foot. And initially I'm going to build it in the center, and then we can move it across and copy it, right? So this is going to be the starting point of his foot. And one very important thing at this point is just look at the scale of your character and decide, you know, what are you building? What does it feel like? All of that is super important. I want my feet to be large and somewhat short, right? That's kind of the style of the character I'm going for. So right here is pretty perfect. I'm going to press Control and drag this out, and that's going to be his kind of a front toe. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do Control and drag to put another sphere here and make this a little bit smaller, right? And that's going to be kind of the middle part of the toes. So something like that I think is great. And let's just use this to, you know, to do what we need. We need probably 3 toes, right? So let's do 2 more. So I'm going to grab my draw, do Control and drag to, you know, to get rid of the mask. I wouldn't mind turning this into Dynamesh, so I'm going to do Dynamesh. And I do like the fact that these are infusing together, so I'm going to polish it. And really holding down the Shift key, start smoothing this out. And as you can see, it really starts to look like some kind of a bird toe, right? Let's do this. Let's go to the bottom view, and I'm going to snap it, and I'm not in the perspective view. Grab my move, change my pivot. I'm going to put my pivot right here and lock this back up. Now I'm going to press Control and drag to make another copy of it, but I'm going to leave it in the same space, somewhat same space, maybe just a little bit to the left, and do like a little turn, right? So something like that. I don't really want these here touching, so that's fine. And we can fix all of this strangeness that will be created. That's totally fine too. Do Control and drag one more, and let's do the same thing this way. And I'm fine with them not being perfectly symmetrical. That's great. I think that is perfect, right? I'm gonna click Draw to get rid of that gizmo mode. Press Control and drag to get rid of the mask. Do Control and drag again to infuse these together. And then let's do a polish. Hold on the Shift key, really clean this up. And now to fix this little strangeness here, that doesn't look like the bottom of the foot at all. Let's just simply use the move and sculpt it manually, right? Let's just literally manually sculpt something that we think the bottom of the foot would look like, something along these lines for like a cartoon character, right? I think that's great. If I go to the bottom and go to the side, I can see what I'm doing. I definitely want to start moving this up right here, because this is going to be where his foot is going to be coming from, right? So let's just, again, just manually sculpting all of this and start pushing this up. That's pretty cool. And we can maintain this round heel part back here, right? It starts to look like a lot like the heel of the character. Make our brush a little bit smaller and just really pull this in all the way up. And maybe create a little bit of a bend here. Do Control and drag to re-Dynamesh, smooth this out, and very quickly, you know, move this around. Be brave, right? You don't have to worry about this being anything specific. It could be a little bit wonky and clay-like, right? That's sort of the type of character we're creating, anyways, right? You can see what it's really starting to look like a you know, a leg, right? Let's do Control and drag, smooth this out. And another thing I could do if I wanted to is I can make the bottoms of these just a little more flat. So I can do Control and Shift, grab my knife tool, and I can just slice the very tips, the very bottom of his foot, something like this, right? And I know it's going to be weird at first, but if we do, because we're in such low resolution, we can do Control and drag and then polish, right? And then hold on the Shift key and really smooth this a lot. You can see what we just did. We created something that is pretty awesome as far as like the bottom goes, right? Very quickly. And now again, just use our move brush to maybe, you know, clean this up a little, make sure it looks good. And I like this. I think this is great. We can talk about the fact if we want to add some nails to him. If we did, let's do that in a minute actually. I'm gonna grab this and unlock it, reset my pivot, let's click on this here, this one to center this, lock this back up, and let's just decide where the leg is going to be. It's probably going to be somewhere around here. All right, so let's move this over and let's decide on the scale that you like. Let's talk about the fact that if we flip this over and this is crossing the middle, right, the feet are going to overlap, right? So we don't want that. But at the same time, we do know that we want the feet, you know, somewhere probably coming out from somewhere right here. And we can adjust the body in a minute, right? And it's going to be somewhat in the middle, maybe just a little bit more back. I think something like that totally works. And the other thing I want to do is rotate this, right? I want to rotate this so I can so I can have two of these. Maybe move it over just a little more. And now I know I have, this is the center, now I know I have more room for two of them, right? And that's great. Let me just adjust this a little more. I like this little curve. I think that's pretty cool. We can decide if we like that. We can even emphasize it even more, you know, if that's something you like. You can even go the other way, but just maybe don't have it perfectly straight. I think that's kind of boring. I kind of like this little curve here. I think that's cute. And let's see. So next thing I would like to do is I'm going to press Alt, select the body, and let me inflate this part right here again to create like a thigh effect, right? So I'm going to active symmetry is on, grab my inflate, and let's just inflate this right here like this. Right away, it looks like he's got these cute little turkey feet, and that is awesome, right? And let me grab my scale, and I'm going to jump out of the perspective view. If you wanted to scale this without changing the position of this, because we made this addition here, let's do unlock, reset the pivot so it's nice and straight, and then let's put it right here. Go to the front view, put it right here, then lock this back up. And now this is nice because we can scale this and not mess with the position, right? So maybe I want to do something like this and maybe move it down. I can stretch this a little more, but now I think this is what I think I kind of like this better. Let me grab my move, and now I can take this and just pull this up. Okay, very cool. I'm just going to do mirror and weld. Very cool. I love the fact that he has a little bit of a belly. I really want to play that up even more. He's a happy turkey, and this one is not going to get eaten, so don't worry. Let's add some nails to him, because these look somewhat too simple, right? Let me press Alt, select this here, and what would be the fastest way to add nails to this? Let's just insert a cone, and I'm gonna grab my move, jump out of the perspective view, and just I want to make it look good on the side first before I play with its position, right? So one of the things I could do is maybe make it just a little bit longer, and let's go ahead and subdivide it. I'm gonna press Ctrl D a few times, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the subdivision levels and delete the lowest, and now I have this really nice smooth shape which I can turn into Dynamesh. So let me do 256 because there's going to be a small nail, so we need a little more detail. Let's do 256, do Dynamesh, and now we can just do whatever we want with it, right? So essentially we can even inflate it. Maybe we don't want it to be super sharp. Do Control and drag and polish, and now we have kind of a more of a cartoony cone versus like a sharp one. I kind of like that. To add a bend, I can always go to move, settings, bend curve. Let's just do like a little bend, and right away we got to something that looks a lot like a nail. Awesome. Let's go ahead and click on gear, say accept. Let's center this. Let's reset the pivot and put it like here somewhere. That's fine. Scale this down, and from the side, this is essentially what I'm going for, something along these lines, right? Now I just have to make sure it looks good from all other angles, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to the top view, or I mean the bottom view, and let me just do one, right? And then I'll just copy it over. So I'm gonna make sure it makes sense from the bottom, press Control to copy it, do something like this. Let's do Control here, and very quickly we positioned them and made something that looks great, right? I can do, let's go do Control and drag to get rid of the mask and take a look. You can decide if you like it, or maybe it's a little too aggressive, right? Because he is kind of a friendly turkey. This looks a little too combative to me. Maybe I can dial this down. What would be an easiest way to, you know, get rid of this kind of aggressive look? I could always just smooth it down and make it a little smaller. If I do smooth it down, that's a little too high of a resolution. Let me actually jump back down to 128. Do Control and drag to go into like a low poly mode, and then I'm gonna polish it, and holding down the Shift key I can just literally just change the size of it by smoothing it, and that's absolutely perfect. I do like them a little bit smaller. If I think they're too sharp, again, I can inflate it, right? I can just keep playing with the shape back and forth, Control and drag to redynamesh, and now they're smaller and they're not as sharp, and that's exactly what I like, right? I'm gonna go to Subtool, and let's go ahead and let's do mirror and weld, put them on the other side. And now our turkey has awesome feet, body, head, all done. Next, let's talk about the tail and the wings. So make sure you save your subtool. Okay, so how do we add a tail? Same thing as we did with the top of the head, right? Let's do the same exact thing. We'll just create kind of these nice soft feathers looking things. So I'm gonna insert a, let's just insert another sphere, and I'm gonna go in the back of the character, jump out of the perspective view, and honestly, I need to kind of position it right here. And let's just talk about the top of the feather, right? Same thing. So do something, I think like this is good, right? It's gonna be tilted a little bit back, and I kind of like this. We can of course flatten it. Maybe it's a little better if it's a little flatter. Grab my move and just literally just pull this down, but I am going to turn it into a Dynamesh. And now all we need to do is just pull this down, and you know, let's make sure active symmetry is on, and that will allow us to create something that is going to be straight or even on both sides, right? So you want to turn that on, and that is pretty perfect for a cartoon tail. We can make it very large, and I'll just create like a bend here and just make sure it's coming out of his tush. You have this nice bend, and very quickly we arrive to like one of the pieces, right? Let's do Control and drag to redynamesh, polish this a little, and let's just decide if we like this. I think it's honestly pretty perfect. All I need to do now is just create many more of them, right? So I'm gonna go to Move and unlock my pivot, put it right here, and make sure that it makes sense from every angle, right? Lock this back up. Now the easiest way to do this, I think, is just going to be duplicating it and just kind of tilting it. Let's jump out of symmetry and just tilting it. So I can tilt it and create another one. Now to copy it to the other side, let's just do mirror and weld. I do have to flip it, then do mirror and weld. Now I have two of them, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to grab this one again, duplicate it, move it, jump out of symmetry, move it to the side, right? And again, I'm gonna mirror it and then do mirror and weld. Now I have two of them. So we can decide if that's enough. I wouldn't mind if I had more. I think turkeys usually have huge tails, right? So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna grab this one, and I can see my tools if I make this a little bit longer. Let's grab this one again, duplicate it, jump out of the symmetry, move it down like this, and let's do a few of them, right? I'm going to duplicate it again, and let's just decide how many we want. I think even something like this is good. Let me see if I could use even more. Yeah, let's do this. So it's going to pass the even point, right? It's going to go start kind of tilting down. I like that. I think that's great. Now what I could do is I could take these, the last three that we just did, and merge them down, right? And now since they're merged, I can mirror them and do mirror and weld. And now I don't really have a purpose for these to be all separate. So I'm gonna merge them all down. I just did that to create kind of a quick process of how I can clone these. Definitely jump out of Dynamesh, right? Because I do want to maintain these to be separate. I don't ever want these to be blended together. And now we have something really cool very quickly. And this turkey is looking pretty fantastic in my opinion. Love it. I think this is great. Make sure once again you save your work. And now we need to do you know, a few more, right? So we definitely need wings. And one of the biggest things about turkeys are their necks and feathers. Now we're not going to do feathers. I think that's going to ruin the style of this character. But we could create a little feather design for the bottom of the neck, and definitely add you know, wings, right? So let's go ahead and do that next. To create the wings, you guessed it, I'm going to insert another sphere and just keep using spheres. And let me jump out of the perspective view, put it right here. And now to turn this into more of a wing looking shape, I can just flatten this a little bit, and then I can cut it in half. Let's do Control and Shift, and I want to jump out of the gizmo mode. Do Control and Shift. Let's do let's cut half of this. Doesn't matter which half, but like this half right here. And now this right here is going to be the base shape of the wing, right? So let's go ahead and change the pivot, maybe put it right here. We can tilt this a little more and get it into kind of a better position. And now we just need to essentially turn this into something that looks like a wing, right? So let's maybe make this, we'll shape it like this a little more, grab our move, and we can turn the AccuCurve on. And what I'm thinking of doing is just pulling some of these pieces out, right? So just creating almost like a sharp effect. So we'll just pull these out and do something like this. Let's think about this. We need probably something like 3, I think is good. Maybe even 4, right? I think that looks a lot like a stylistic wing. So that was pretty easy. Let's do, let's inflate this a little more, turn it into Dynamesh, and just keep playing. I'm gonna polish it. And nothing in my design here is super sharp. Even the nails I try to make somewhat, you know, I don't have these super sharp corners like that, so I'm gonna keep inflating this. And I'm trying to get rid of these super sharp corners, right? And now I can just grab my move and literally just pull this out. Let's pull this up a little. Think about like this is going to be like a little, almost like a little bird shoulder. I definitely make this a little bit flatter, but I'm just moving it around until it feels good and makes sense. I want to make sure I don't have anything that is too straight, right? You want to, if it's a bird, you probably want to maintain some of these shapes to be playful and whimsical and not perfectly straight. Just like we did before, if you want to clean this up because your shape looks too wobbly or anything like that, you can Z-remesh this. If you wanted to add more detail to this, you can always grab something like the Damien standard, and we can just create a couple lines here, right? We can also pinch this here if we wanted to, right? Very easy. All right, so I kind of like this. I think this totally works. If I did want to merge this together, I'm trying to decide if I want to or if I want to keep it separate. I honestly can't decide, but if I did want to keep this, if I did want to merge this portion here, it will be really easy to do, right? All I have to do is go to my subtools. If I press Alt, I can see where the body is. Let me move the body down by the wing. And now if I click on my body and click on the wing, I can see they're both 128 resolution. And you know, maybe I want to switch this to be a little bit higher. Let's do 256 for each one. And before I merge them, I'll make sure they are matching resolution wise. So they're both 256, right? Now I'll take the top one and just merge it down into one layer. Do Control and drag to re-Dynamesh at 256. And then holding down the Shift key, I can just really smooth this out. And that's going to create an illusion of the shoulder coming out and kind of blending in with the body. And I think maybe that's actually pretty cool, right? It kind of totally works. So I'm gonna go with this. Now, how do I flip this to the other side? Same way. I'm gonna mirror, do a mirror and weld, and now I have two of them. And now if I wanted to, let me turn my symmetry on and just decide if he looks good or if he needs any touch-ups. You know, maybe I can do raise the shoulders up a little bit. Honestly, as a final step, I would just add a little detail right here on his neck that looks, you know, something like feathers, right? How would we do that? What I could do is I can duplicate the body, right? Let's go ahead and go into a solo mode, jump out of the perspective view, and essentially all I want to do is cut the neck off for 1 second. So I'm going to press, let's go ahead and do Control Shift, grab the knife, and I need to come on the bottom here, press Alt, just kind of create a curve like this, right? And right here is where I want the feathers to end, right? So I'm going to do something like this and just cut the bottom piece off, okay? And now if I jump out of the solo mode, it looks like nothing happened, but I have a neck on top of another neck. And I'm going to use this top neck to create something that looks a lot like feathers. And if you want to do a little inflate, you can see it's going to create a little bit of a thickness there. And that's exactly what I want, right? 256 res is good. I'm going to go to Dynamesh mode, and I can polish this to keep this nice and smooth. And now I have something like this, literally just two necks on top of each other, right? And the cool thing about doing this is that now you can grab a move and literally just pull this down without the AccuCurve, like this. And that's going to give me kind of a round shape of something that could technically pass for feathers, kind of like a cartoony feather, right? And I just have to be careful to make sure I'm at the right angle and just go all the way around and just pull these down like this, right? And I think that totally works. Again, just maintain my angle perfectly and do something like this. Something, just literally plopping down clay on top of clay. Super simple. All right, and that is pretty much all I want. If I want to inflate this a little more, I could do that. If I wanted to clean this up, right now it's really messy, I can, of course, let's do Redynamesh and polish. Holding down the Shift key, we can really polish this a lot. And, you know, just decide if that's something we like. But I think it's pretty perfect. If you want to add a little more of a bubble effect right here, we can always grab the standard brush, go to drag rectangular, do like a soft shape like a alpha 1 just by default, it's fine. And we can do an add, right? So let's do an add and let's test our intensity. And you can see, you can control the intensity, of course, but very quickly, you know how turkeys have those kind of a bubbly neck? We can do that very quickly, right? We can turn off the symmetry in the front here, but then we can create this illusion of something that looks like a bunch of bubbles, right? And maybe that will even look more like a cartoon turkey. So I'll do that really quick. All right, so let's take a look and see if we like this. Let me change my camera so I can make it a little even more dramatic. And you can see what that looks like. I think that is pretty awesome. I hope you guys made something amazing. In our next video, let's go ahead and maybe paint him up and run him through Blender and just create a couple beautiful renders for our turkey. I think that would be a lot of fun. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you guys in our next video.